let's talk about the slap heard around the world, because initially I was doing my show earlier, the ArielHelwani show, and we're reacting in real time to the slap, and then tweets start to trickle in. Like, was there something there? Was there an object? Was there an egg? Obviously, Eubank has been poking Ben with the egg stuff. He mentioned it at the press conference, and we'll get to some of those comments in a moment. But in case you've been living under a rock, and this happened literally just 3 hours ago, we are live right now on all DAZN platforms. This was the face-off. This was the stare-down between Chris Eubank on your left and Conor Benn on your right. You see Eddie Hearn next to Ben. You see Ben Shalom next to Eubank. And they're going back and forth here.
I didn't even know what was going on.
Where were you? Where were you, by the way?
I was right on the stage, so I was kind of behind Ben Shalom. I was kind of positioned there. And I didn't know what was going on. I thought they just pushed each other. But then I was watching Nigel Benn's reaction, and Nigel Benn was going for Chris. And I was like, oh, what's going on? Like, wasn't it just a push? And then I still didn't know that an egg was used. And then I went to the main stage after all the security kind of pushed people away. Like, wow. And then I saw like eggshells on the floor. And I was like, 1 second, what just happened? And then I only saw what happened when I saw a replay. And I was like, wow. Chris Eubank Jr. brought everything out here. Chris is fantastic. I'd have Chris at every single press conference, because that wound up Conor Benn. It wound up Eddie Hearn, who seemed to make a beeline for Ben Shalom. Like, it is 1-0 Chris Eubank Jr. right now. I have to say, it's 1-0 Chris Eubank
10-8? 10-8 round?
10-7.
10-7.
10-7. A slap with eggs? 10-7.
Yeah, that's not bad. By the way, what is this? What is this? Eddie Hearn went after Ben Shalom? I didn't see this.
It looked like Eddie made a beeline for Ben Shalom. It was like Eddie thought, this is my moment. I've been waiting to crack you for about 18 months. This is my moment. And Eddie went for him. And I think security had to pull Eddie away. And for a second, I'm not joking. I'm laughing, but I'm not joking. I thought Eddie and Ben could throw hands. There was about a split second where I thought Eddie and Ben could throw hands. And my money was on Eddie. My money's on Eddie. Eddie's a bit bigger. He used to box. Eddie knows what he's doing. But it looked like they were going to go at each other. I will say all this. It's now a sellout. I know tickets go on sale on Friday, but that's done. It's done. It will sell out. It works. I don't know. We need a presser on Thursday. I think we could just let them be and just go straight to April 26th now.
That is a fun little wrinkle to all of this. You know, it's been a lot of peace and love between Eddie and Frank Warren over the past 18 or so months. Between Eddie and Ben Shalom, there's no love. There's no love whatsoever. Yeah. So that adds a whole other element. I'm assuming by the time morning comes tomorrow, all over the country, all over England, every back page, every newspaper, every talk show, every sports show is going to be talking about this. To your point, this couldn't have worked out better. And I'm seeing some of the old heads, the old boxing, the old curmudgeons being like, this is nonsense. This is classless. This is low life stuff. They couldn't have dreamed this better. They couldn't have drawn this up. They couldn't have imagined, if they wanted to fix this, they couldn't have done it better than what transpired earlier today.
Yeah, it needed this. I mean, I don't see the problem with it. I mean, ultimately, there wasn't a fight. I mean, they didn't physically throw hands. It was a slap with an egg. And obviously, the eggs has a bit of a backstory, right? I mean, because Conor Benn, obviously, the issue with the PD test relates to egg consumption. So I think Chris Eubank played it fantastically well. He hid the eggs in his pockets. He brought them out. And he timed it perfectly well. And ultimately, it delivered. I mean, what we want is talking points from that press conference. And again, I've hosted press conferences where nothing happens and everyone walks away thinking, what was the point in that? This one, however, every single person is talking about. My sister has now reached out to me and asked for tickets. It's done. If my sister asked me for tickets, that's the bar I know we need to hit. We've hit the bar. This is now a big deal, April 26th.
By the way, we just showed the other angle there. Is it possible for the crew in the back to go sound full on that all the way up? Because you can really hear... You can see it, but you can also hear the egg cracking the side of Conor Benn's face. Take a listen to this.
I just find it funny. It's like he's taking his fight. It's like he's taking his fight.
You hear that?
That's assault. That's assault. He should press charges. No, I'm joking.
No,
that's assault. Like, he put everything into that left hook. It was like a left hook of eggs. He put everything into it. And look, I mean, Conor Benn was raging. I mean, there were guys there, big burly, 22-stone security guards that were struggling to hold him back. He was raging. I mean, honestly, look, I'm a bit upset because the face-off was scheduled for tomorrow. And the face-off would do record numbers. I think it would be the biggest face-off we've ever seen. I would be very shocked if that happens now.
Oh, they got to do it.
It's a shame.
I mean, look at that face, and there's the tweet from Chris Eubank, and you can see the
so
yolk.
Good.
Golly,
So
you can see the yolk, and the caption is excellent. I mean, again, you can't dream it up better than this. And by the way, I don't know if it was that calculated, but it seems like Chris almost like he baits him to move his head down low like this so that he's able. And initially, when I'm watching it, I'm like, did he kind of pull that slap? But then you realize he's holding on to freaking eggs. In fact, there's a photo of his jacket pocket that DAZN tweeted out with like 6-7 eggs in there. Look at this thing.
Yeah,
like this is his jacket.
I mean,
he came ready.
This was all planned. He came planned, and like I shouldn't be surprised because he always does something at press conferences. I mean, you know the thing about Chris Eubank here. I don't know. I almost felt like Chris Eubank had all the star quality to be the next pay-per-view monster over here. And look, he's done okay. He's done okay in some big fights, but I've almost felt like it was going to be AJ then Chris Eubank Jr. I wish that we saw all of what we're seeing now 10 years ago, because I've always felt like he was a star. I almost felt like he was being held back by himself. And now at 35, I think we're seeing the best Chris Eubank Jr. And he's still, I think, very much got something to offer in the ring as well. I just love what I saw from him at the press conference. And by the way, look, I love what I saw from Conor, from Nigel, from Eddie, from Ben. Everyone played their part. I thought it was really good.
By the way, in the immediate aftermath, okay, so what happens? Like, we didn't get to see all of that. What are you seeing? What did we miss? Where do the guys go? Do they interact? Is there anything else that happened behind the scenes?
It went a bit crazy. So Ben Shalom and Chris Eubank Jr. Went that way, so to speak, and Conor and Nigel were pulled that way. And I'm not joking, there was probably around 20 security guards on stage, and it took 20 to solve this. Because Conor and Nigel, I wouldn't say lost the plot, but the red mist descended. And they could have done anything. Honestly, they were ready to go. Whereas Chris was almost, I don't know, almost happy with what he did. Like just walking around like, there you go. We did it, boys. Eddie was upset. Eddie was kind of walking up and down. And he didn't know where to go. And then they both left the building and that was it. See you later. But it was fantastic. I mean, the whole arena was buzzing. The whole venue was buzzing. Like everyone was just, oh my God, what happened? And it's good for the sport. And I know, as you say, some old heads will moan about it, but I think it's great for the sport. I think these press conferences for years have been dull. And I've always watched the ones at the UFC. And the UFC ones have been interactive and things always happen. Finally, a boxing one lights people up a little bit.